The whole world of remote work, it can feel a bit like the Wild West, right? There's a ton of opportunity out there, but it's hard to know where the map is. Well, that's what we're going to do today. We are going to cut through all the noise in the remote job market and lay out a clear, actionable blueprint to help you land a truly high-paying remote career. So let's kick things off with a big question. Do you think all remote jobs are basically the same? A lot of people do. They kind of see it as this simple choice. You're either in an office or you're at home. But oh man, the reality is so much more nuanced and honestly way more interesting. All right, let's get real and put a number to this. Right now, the average salary for a work-from-home employee in the US is just over $61,000. Okay, that's not bad, right? A solid number. But here's the thing, that average is super misleading because it just throws everyone into one big pot. Let's just call that our baseline, our starting point. But then, you see a number like this. A top-tier role, something like a remote chief financial officer, can pull in up to $350,000. I mean, that gap between the average and the potential, it's just massive. And that gap, right there, that's where strategy comes in. See, it's not about finding just any remote job. It's about getting yourself in position for the right one. So, the big question is, how do we get you from here to there? Well, we've got a 5-part blueprint. First, we'll look at the new remote reality. Then, we'll build out your strategic blueprint, talk about high-value skills, crafting your brand, and finally, mastering that whole hiring process. All right, let's dive into part 1, the new remote reality. The big thing to get here is that the remote job market, it's grown up. This isn't some temporary fix anymore. Nope. It's a really stratified system, and yeah, that means there are clear winners and losers. And I mean, just look at how divided this market is. A whopping 69% of remote jobs, they're for experienced folks. And if you add in the manager and senior manager roles, that number skyrockets to 94%. So what does that tell you? It tells you this isn't a free-for-all. Companies are willing to pay top dollar for a sure thing, someone who can just hit the ground running from day one. So where are all these jobs hiding? Well, the demand is really packed into these 5 areas. Computer and IT, okay, no surprise there. But check this out. Project management, operations, even medical and health. This is so important because it shows that you don't have to be a coder to get a great remote job. It's really about being a strategic player, no matter the industry. Okay, moving on to part 2. We've got the lay of the land, so now we need our map, our blueprint. This is the core of the strategy, and it's built on 3 really simple but super powerful pillars. And here they are: professional specialization, demonstrated autonomy, and continuous upskilling. Let's break that down. Specialization is what makes you stand out. Autonomy is what proves you're trustworthy. And upskilling, well, that's what keeps you in the game. This whole framework, it's the engine that drives everything else. All right, part 3, let's get practical. Let's talk about what it actually means to build these high-value skills. We're moving away from the abstract theory and into the nitty-gritty of what you actually need to learn. When you boil it all down, success in a top-tier remote job is about 2 sides of the same coin. On one side, you've got those hard skills everyone's talking about. Python, AWS, you name it. But on the other side, and this is just as critical, are the professional attributes, the soft skills. Things like self-discipline, being a proactive communicator, being adaptable. You absolutely have to have both. Seriously, one without the other, it's just not going to work. Okay, so how do you actually prove you've got these skills, especially if you're trying to switch careers, right? Well, certifications are your best friend. They're like a giant flashing sign to employers that says, hey, not only do I know my stuff, but I'm motivated enough to learn it on my own time. I mean, look at that AWS cert. It can open doors to jobs paying $150,000 a year. Now that is a serious ROI. And this quote just nails it. It says, the value of continuous learning is no longer a mere resume booster, but a strategic necessity for career survival and growth. Think about that. It's not just about getting a leg up anymore. In today's world, it's literally about staying relevant, about not getting left behind. Okay, on to part 4, crafting your remote brand. So you've done the work, you've got the skills. Now, how do you tell people about it? This is where we shift from getting ready to taking action. Because your application, your resume, your cover letter, that's your first impression. And sometimes it's your only one. And here is a game-changing tip for your resume. Stop listing what you did. Seriously, nobody cares that your responsibility was managing social media. They want to know the outcome. what was the result? Increased engagement by 40% in 3 months. See? That has impact. It proves you're all about results, which is exactly what they're looking for. Okay, here's an insider tip you need to know. A lot of companies use this software. It's called an applicant tracking system, or ATS, to scan your resume before a human ever lays eyes on it. It's basically a robot filter. And this robot is looking for very specific keywords. So you've got to sprinkle in terms like distributed team, asynchronous communication, and the names of tools like Slack or Asana. It's absolutely essential to get past that first gatekeeper.
And whatever you do, please, please do not skip the cover letter. Your resume is the what, but your cover letter is the why. It's your one chance to tell a story. You need a strong opening, you need to show you've done your homework on the company, and you need to give them concrete examples of how you rock at working remotely. This is where you let your personality shine.
All right, we're at the final boss level, part 5, mastering the hiring process. You did it. You got the interview. Now it's time to bring it home. This is all about navigating the final steps, avoiding those classic mistakes, and really proving you're the one for the job.
Think of this as your do's and don'ts list. The mistake? Spraying and praying your resume everywhere. The best practice? Customizing every single application. Don't just wing the video call. Test your gear. Clean up your background. And please have good questions ready to ask them. All these little things, they scream professionalism.
You know those questions, tell me about a time when, recruiters call them behavioral questions. Well, here's your secret weapon, the STAR method. It's a simple little framework: situation, task, action, result. It helps you tell a perfect, concise story that shows off your skills. Recruiters eat this stuff up because it gives them cold, hard proof of your abilities. Now, when the tables turn and they ask, do you have any questions for us? Don't waste this moment asking about stuff you could have found online. Ask something bold, something like, based on our conversation, do you have any reservations about my ability to succeed in this role? Wow, that shows incredible confidence, and it gives you a final chance to clear up any doubts they might have. So let's pull all this together. Look, getting the job offer, that's not the end. It's the beginning. Building a truly successful, high-paying remote career is about what you do after you're hired. It's about living out all the things you talked about in the interview, being proactive, being disciplined, and never, ever stopping that learning process. At the end of the day, this whole thing isn't just about finding a job. It's about being the architect of your own career, a career that gives you the money and the freedom you want. The blueprint is right here. The path is laid out. So the only real question is, are you ready to get to work and build it?